Hi everyone, Velvet here, and I have some stories for you today. But before we get started, can you please do me a huge favor and like, comment, and subscribe? It'll really help the channel out, and it'll get you more videos like this every day. Let's get started. And our first one comes from Exciting District 14. Am I the beehole for calling my stepmother delusional and telling her she wasn't so special after all? The background could go on forever, but the simplified version is my mom and dad had me, a 16-year-old male. When I was 6, my mom was expecting another baby, my little brother. She was 7 months into her pregnancy when she started to feel sick and went to the hospital. Some tests were carried out, and it turned out my dad had been cheating on her, and he passed along some STDs to her during the pregnancy. I remember my mom losing her crap on my dad when she got home, and I remember how devastated and scared she was. My brother was stillborn, and not long after, my mom never left the hospital. She bled really badly after the delivery. My mom kicked my dad out the day she found out. My dad's family, his parents, 3 siblings, and 2 sister-in-laws, were disgusted with him. When I was 10, my dad met and married his now wife, Kate. From the time I met Kate, she had this attitude of, I don't know why everyone's so mad at your dad. He treats me well and shows me much respect. She told me I should forgive my dad and not carry a grudge for my mom. She also told me she would get his family to stop treating him like a criminal. She never let this go. Over and over, she told me to let it go. We clashed over that so often, and my dad's family told her to go F herself with that attitude. She was like, your dad has grown. He treats me like I deserve to be treated. He learned his lesson. He's a good man with me. He has someone he loves now and wants to have a happy marriage with. This was an ongoing thing. 3 years ago, I realized my dad was cheating on Kate. He was saying he was working through COVID, but I didn't buy any of that, and neither did my family. He and Kate have 3 kids together, my half-siblings. I know, but I don't care for any of them or see them as my family. Kate found out about the cheating 2 months ago. She fell apart. Then the last month she found out we all knew / suspected he was cheating. For a while she was trying to confide in me, and I would just walk away from her or do something else and wouldn't listen. Then on Thanksgiving, we were all together with my family, Dad's family, and she broke down even harder because no one comforted her or stood up for her. That night she told me she thought I cared and loved her and would be there and support her through this. Because she's family. My stepmom, she's the mom of my siblings. I called her delusional. And told her if she ever felt like I cared, it's because it was what she wanted to think and not because I ever gave a crap about her. I told her she knew what my mom went through, only less severely, and I guess she wasn't as special as she thought she was, since he cheated on her too. She started yelling and called me a monster and told me I wouldn't ever see her kids again if I didn't be nicer. I shrugged at her, yelling because it won't upset me at all. She said I should have more loyalty to her. And I had to hold myself back because I really wanted to call her delusional again. Am I the beehole? Hi OP, I'm gonna go with you're not the beehole, and yeah, you're right. She sounds delusional. It sounds like she made up her own perfect happy little life in her mind, and didn't really listen to what you were saying and how you were acting towards her. So she wants you to be kind and nice to her, and she gets that by disrespecting the mother, your mother, that you love, and trying to big up the guy who cheated and betrayed / backstabbed your mother. Not a good plan. I wouldn't go that route. Going down the comments, Zeal F. Prince has a nice little breakdown. Not the beehole. Your stepmother is delusional, and the beehole. Your dad cheated on your mom. Your stepmother knew what she was getting into. Her attitude towards your mother was atrocious, and her acting like everyone should be happy for your dad because he has me now is like shoving salt into the wounds of what happened because of your dad's actions. Disgusting on her part. I agree, she is disgusting. And I also agree with OP. Delusional. And our next one comes from Fatal Foxtrot. Am I the beehole for not changing my dog's name when my new neighbor's child had the same name? I, a 36-year-old male, am the owner of a Great Pyre / Australian cattle dog mix named Charlotte, a 6-year-old female. I live in a lower middle class suburb in an unspecified United States. I have lived here for about a year now, and I let Charlotte out to go potty roughly 6 or so times a day. It's always the same routine. I open the back door, Charlotte runs out outside, pees, and patrols the yard. Apparently, it's a pyre thing, and doesn't typically come bounding back to the door until I poke my head out and call her name. About a week or two ago, maybe longer if I didn't notice, my new neighbors moved in across from my back alley. I had no intentions of interacting with them whatsoever, like ever, except today, when I was executing the last step of Charlotte's aforementioned potty protocol. I stuck my head out and called her name, but this time, alongside the familiar sounds of my dog galloping up to the porch steps, was an adult human voice shouting something along the lines of, "Why are you calling my daughter?" At first, I thought it might have been my new neighbors getting into a spat, until a couple minutes later I heard the pounding on my front door. I opened the door to an angry man, about twice my size, glaring me down. He said something like, "Why the F are you calling my daughter into your house?" I responded, "Your daughter's name is Charlotte?" And he just kinda kept glaring at me. In absence of a response, I followed up with, "Charlotte's my dog's name, dude." He rolled his eyes at me and said, "I better change my dog's name because he doesn't want his daughter, 2-year-old female, getting confused and running into my house." I told him that's not going to happen, because not only did my dog have the name first, we lived here first, plus I don't like strangers making demands of me before even attempting to be polite. What I didn't say, but really wanted to say, is that teaching his child stranger danger is his responsibility, not mine. He called me stupid and said that a human child obviously has priority over a dog for a name. I shut the door in his face and stared at him through the peephole for a moment before he eventually walked back to his house. Last potty break, I went out with Charlotte and stayed in the yard with her until she finished her business, but this guy just kind of stood in his yard with his arms crossed and glared at me the entire time. TLDR, I think it's unfair that this father demands I change my dog's name just because he chose the same name for his kid. I guess we got another edit. Rude and unnecessary comment redacted. But, on the other hand, most humans think humans have priority over dogs just about everything. Am I the beehole? OP, no, you are not the beehole. I'm sure there are tons of animals that share names with human beings. Heck, one of my dogs is named after a cartoon character, and it's a pretty normal sounding name. So I'm pretty sure people also have that name, and no, I'm not going to change my dog because of that name, or my dog's name. But OP, you did the right thing by going out and watching your dog. This guy strikes me as someone who would do something to your animal to get to you. He sounds like a roided out idiot, with the whole him being taller than you and all that and being 2 times bigger, I think he said. If I were you, I would also carry something on me to defend myself, because I've seen enough investigation discovery to see what happens when neighbors start to clash. It usually doesn't end well for both sides. But looking down the comments, I kind of like these ideas too. We've got Cilia Sally 82, not the beehole. Double down, get another dog and name it his wife's name. And then Chalcart says, spectacular, and then get a Chihuahua and name it after him. I agree, that would be hilarious. And this one comes from NoBank3444. Am I the beehole for telling my stepdaughter to call me dad even though her real dad doesn't like it? I'm a 38-year-old male, my wife is a 33-year-old female, and her daughter, my stepdaughter, is 11. I've been married to my wife for 3 years now, together for 4. I met her daughter when she was 7 and married my wife when she turned 8. This is getting confusing, so my daughter can be Millie. My wife got divorced when Millie was 6. Her ex cheated, but they still have a decent, cordial relationship, and my wife doesn't badmouth Millie's bio dad in front of Millie. My wife has mostly full custody of her, but bio dad gets Millie one weekend a month. Millie loves her bio dad, but they're not very close anymore. She doesn't remember a lot of when her dad lived with her, and she doesn't see him often, so it's more of a formal relationship. He gets her ice cream and they watch movies. And basically, she has a lot of fun when she sees him, but I'm the dad who comforts her when she has nightmares and listens to her chatter every day about stuff that happened in school. I love her very much, and I think of her as my daughter. Until recently, though, she was still calling me by my first name. I didn't mind, but a few weeks ago she told me her friend said that it was weird that she doesn't call her dad, Dad. Then she had to explain that I'm not actually her dad, and it was awkward. I sympathized and said that sucks, then told her that if she wants, she can of course call me Dad. I didn't think about this very much, it just seemed obvious. But she was very happy, and now she only calls me Daddy. My wife's ex came over for Thanksgiving because my wife wanted Millie to have both their parents there for once. I wasn't super happy, but I was okay with it. Her ex heard Millie calling me Dad and questioned Millie in an upset way, and she said that I told her that me and him are both her dads. He got really angry and started screaming at me, saying I'm not her dad, and she should know that. Later, my wife was upset with me, saying I should have thought about how Millie's relationship with her real dad would suffer before I told Millie something like this. She says I'm selfish and just want to feel like her real dad, and even if Millie doesn't call me dad, it's not a big deal. Am I the beehole? Okay, so you're not the beehole. As far as I'm concerned, you're the dad. He gets her one weekend out of the month. That's just like a friend? I don't even know. An acquaintance? You're the dad. You're the one putting in work. But also this part where it's like it doesn't matter if your wife's saying that it doesn't matter if she calls you dad. Okay, if it doesn't matter, then let her call you dad. If it doesn't really matter. And also, I may be wrong, but it sounds like your wife is not over her ex and she's prioritizing him over you when she should have your back. You're not the one who cheated, he cheated. If I was in her shoes, I would make sure he would have no contact with any of us because I despise a cheater. And his next one comes from Underwood 1993. Am I the beehole for refusing to drop off soup, menudo, for my wife's sister? Thanksgiving special. My wife worked very hard to make a Thanksgiving dinner for my in-laws who flew in to stay with us. We stayed up late and worked early. The food was phenomenal and easily the best Thanksgiving spread I've ever had. It's the first year she had a full control of the menu at our house. Her sister was supposed to come over to help during the day, but ended up going to her fiancé to his family's house. No hard feelings. I've pulled my wife away from her family in the past, and I understand. As we sat down to eat around 6 p.m., make our plates, and say grace, her sister shows up. She sits down at the table with a massive 1.5-gallon Tupperware container. She keeps asking if everyone's gotten their food. Once everyone gets their first plate, she fills the effer up with the food and says her fiancé is waiting in the car and wants to go home. So she leaves. This upsets my wife, who, now 2 days later, has still not had any of the food that she worked so hard on. It's all in the fridge. So, the next day, we go out to eat. Mother-in-law gets some soup, menudo, to go. We go to a Christmas tree farm with my kids, about an hour from the city. On the way back, with the tree strapped to the top, mother-in-law asked me to drive an additional 40 minutes out of my way to drop the soup, which at this point is 5 hours old, from my wife's sister. I said, absolutely not, and dropped him off at the hotel. For context, our neighbor slipped us a Thanksgiving card right before we ate, so my wife was overjoyed to make him a plate, with a little bit of everything, including dessert. It made her so happy to share what she made, but at least he sent her a card, so she isn't selfish. What her sister did made her feel used. Hi, OP, you and your wife, not the beehole. Your wife's sister is a hardcore beehole. I despise people like that who come and, she can have a plate. I guess give her a plate because she didn't even want to show up. But you come and you empty out the food in your giant Tupperware and you run off. Holy hell, that's so rude. Personally, if I were in your shoes, I would have told her to put some of that back. She can take a plate for her and her fiance, but not all of that. And I have done that. I have stopped and break people from saying, from taking all the food. It's usually at barbecues. But yeah, I will stop people and I will shame them because you're not taking all my food. I could not imagine being so shameless in doing this. I wouldn't even showed up. But if I did, I would have given them, I would have taken a plate. I would have given a plate. But I would have never taken that food. That is people, man. People surprise you. Looks like we get a little bit more info in the comments. First Peanut Gallery 10 says, not the beehole. Why does your sister-in-law have free reign over your meal, and why did you let her take the food? OP says, 2 reasons. I was too busy eating, she went while we were delivering food, as my wife puts it, she did it with tact, and she was a manipulative, see you next Tuesday. Ah, so we see she made her move while no one was there to protect the food. And our final one comes from Catwill55. Am I the beehole for not letting my 14-year-old cousin come on the cousin walk? When the bulk of my generation of cousins were 16 to 19, we started a yearly tradition of a cousin walk at Thanksgiving. For people familiar, a cousin walk happens when a group of teenage/adult cousins where there are certain conversations and activities that maybe aren't appropriate for older or younger relatives. At the time, there were only 3 that were under 16, a 14-year-old, and a 4-year-old, and a baby. 14 is kind of pushing it, but with the age differences, it seemed mean and stupid to leave the 14-year-old out, and it would draw more attention, so we brought her along with us. This became a yearly tradition. The 2 youngest would ask to go out, but we always said it was an older cousin/older kid kind of thing to do, and everyone accepted it. This Thanksgiving, that 4-year-old is now 14. We went to go on our walk as usual, and this time my aunts really didn't accept that he couldn't come, because we let Sheila, fake name, come when she was 14, so he's clearly old enough now and should be included. No, he's too young, and it's not appropriate. Sheila was too young, but it was vaguely pushing it. Young with the rest of us being close in age. Now we're all in our 20s being asked to include a kid. Also, not for nothing, but all of us, including her, were in high school when this started. This was all teenagers, not 20-somethings and a middle schooler. She kept pushing and wouldn't understand why we were being so mean and not including him. And of course, we couldn't admit exactly why. We were eventually let go, but she's been all over the family group chat about how awful we are and how we are all lacking in family values if we're so exclusive. I don't think we're in the wrong. Having an adult cousin-only activity isn't inappropriate. There's just too much of an age gap that unfortunately there are 2 cousin groups. Hi OP, I get it, I don't think you're the beehole, and at first I was like, oh, he's 14, yeah, that's the age, right? But I forgot you guys get older too, so yeah, you're basically a bunch of adults trying to have some adult time and talk about adult things, and you don't want a child around you, so I get it. I don't think you're the beehole. Thank you so much for staying with me to the end of this video. Can you please do what I said in the beginning, and like, comment, and subscribe? It will really help the channel out, and it'll get you more videos like this every day. Velvet out.